You're listening to Fever 104 FM, the Pop of Bollywood. My name is Tarai Sinawala, and this is our weekend special show called The Dons of Bengaluru. The Dons of Bengaluru. The Dons of Bengaluru. All the regular listeners know that from now till 8 o'clock we shift focus away from Bollywood and music, and we bring the focus onto issues, institutions and people who affect the fabric of our city. And our guest today, Ms. Renuka Viswanathan, definitely affects the fabric of our city, and she's done so for many, many years. She's a retired IAS officer of almost 4 decades. 40 years she's been serving in the government. She was the Secretary to the Government of India in the Cabinet Secretariat. She's been the first woman Deputy Commissioner in Karnataka, first woman Managing Director of KSFC. It's fantastic having you on air with us, ma'am. I know that you've recently joined the AAP Party, and we're going to talk about you contesting the state elections. But first, let's talk about your 37 years of service as an IAS officer. What has been the highlights of this long tenure, ma'am?
Well, it depends on whether you want me to talk about the kind of things that you do a selfie with. Okay, I was the first this, I was the first that. Or you actually want me now, in retrospect, to remember what were the things I enjoyed most. And if I were answering it from that point of view, what I really still enjoyed was being a public finance specialist. Actually, when I was dealing with finance, it was fun. It was always fun when I was doing as a Managing Director, Karnataka State Finance Corporation. And then I was very, very lucky to be in Delhi on very critical finance desks right at the time when liberalization came in. So I saw how it worked, and I think it actually changed my idea of what's important in economics, what drives people. So those are the things that I remember. Of course, they always say that girls are not good at money, at counting, at mathematics. Well, no, they were wrong. Actually, I thoroughly enjoyed being among figures and statistics and money.
And you did a fantastic job. We know you have a PhD in public finance. We also know that as the first managing director of the Karnataka State Financial Corporation, you turned it around and made it the #1 financial institution in India at the time. We will talk about that a little later on in the interview with Ms. Renuka Viswanathan has been talking to us about her journey in the IAS for almost 40 years. She retired recently in 2008 as the Secretary to the Government of India in the Cabinet Secretariat. It was fantastic listening to you, ma'am, talk passionately about finance and saying that women are just as good as men in anything, including finance. And we know you were the first woman Managing Director of the Karnataka State Financial Corporation. But after handling such big roles, being part of the liberalization process of India right from Delhi, what did you occupy yourself with after retirement?
Well, after retirement, I actually said, look, I've had enough of all this. I'm just going to put down the burden and have fun. And since I love traveling and I'm a bit of a foodie and I actually love Europe, we traveled. We did all the nutty things that we had never done earlier, my husband and I. And then 4 years back, I said, look, I got seduced into joining the AAP Party. And it just came out of the blue. I realized that, yes, I wanted to be here in the party. And that's what happened. And now, of course, it's just led me into all these corners, which I hadn't expected. I'd never planned for. No, not a retirement job, post-retirement job. I never took any of that. Well, here I am. Let's see.
Is this your first political endeavor? Because I know that in the IAS, there's no way you could have taken a political stand at any point.
Oh, I don't know if I should make this confession but it's a fact that I had very, like everybody else, strong Marxist sympathies when I was in college, and ended up, always voting for the SFI. The candidate used to get 4 votes and one of them would always be mine. But, after that, as they say in political science, you have to be a socialist, by the time, up to your 30th year. But if you are a socialist after you're 30, then there must be something seriously wrong with you. So I gave it all up. And in government, yes, you can't really join a party.
So this is your first moment deep into politics, the Aam Aadmi Party. I know you're going to be contesting the state elections from the Shantinagar constituency. We're going to talk about your campaign platform. We're going to talk about state budget, and we're going to talk about the future of elections. All up next on Fever 104 FM. My name is Tarai Sinawala, and you're listening to Fever 104 FM. This is our weekend show, The Dons of Bengaluru, talking about something we all need to talk about, which is the elections that are coming up this year. Our guest today, Ms. Renuka Viswanathan, after serving India for almost 4 decades as an IAS officer, has recently joined the Aam Aadmi Party and you're currently contesting state elections from Shantinagar constituency. The big question, what is your campaign platform or manifesto?
You know, the Aam Aadmi Party, basically what I liked about it and why I'm here is that it has 3 items on its agenda. The first is governance, good governance. And you'll all be surprised to realize, because I was a student of political science, I'd like to make this point, that every government is supposed to give us good governance. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a democracy. It could be a dictatorship. It could be a monarchy. But good governance is the right of every citizen. That's why we join and form a society. We form a political unit. And well, why haven't we got it all these years? So the Aam Aadmi Party actually is there because it's giving us good governance, and it's been doing it very well indeed since 2013 and 2014 very much in Delhi. That is one. The second thing is, I have this sneaking, maybe it's not necessarily sneaking, what you feel is a great feeling of sympathy, of compassion for the poor. I think we all have it. In Bangalore, I've seen a very large number of people working for the poor, doing whatever they can in their own way to help the poor. And what I like about the Aam Aadmi Party is that the policies, they don't go around saying we are socialist, we are this, we are that. There's no ideological name to anything, but every policy that they have implemented has the poor person very clearly within the frame, and I think that appeals to me. And of course, the third reason why I am with the Aam Aadmi Party is that it's really patriotic. And of course, this is not what we understand by patriotism. We think patriotism is having a gun, turning it around somebody else and say, oh, the sepoy at the border. That is not patriotism. According to me, patriotism is taking every decision in your life with your country's interest in the forefront. And I was in Delhi at the time when the Bofors issue cropped up. And I saw, to my great dismay, how people were putting other issues before the welfare of the country. You can make a mistake in taking a decision about your country, but you cannot willfully decide that you're going to sacrifice the interest of your country just for the sake of putting some money in your Swiss bank account. I consider that unpatriotic. And that, of course, is not what the Aam Aadmi Party does. There's just one little thing, sneaky way in which I feel that I feel good with Arvind Kejriwal, because I used to drive my car to the office, personal car to the office, drive back always using my personal car. I had an antique Mercedes which everybody used to recognize, and I can tell you that there's not a single officer, IAS officer in Bangalore or in Delhi who has ever driven their own personal car to the highest office of the civil service, which is the cabinet secretariat. So when I saw Arvind without the red light on the car, when he said, I'll go through security, when he said all that, I said, wow, this is something after my own heart, and I felt completely at home in the party. So here I am. That's why the party works for me.
All right. We haven't touched upon finance, and I know we mentioned that just before this. Your core passion is public finance, and you've got huge experiences being the managing director of the KSFC. Let's come back and talk about what's right and wrong with our state budget up next. Our guest today is Ms. Renuka Viswanathan, retired IAS officer of almost 4 decades, who's recently joined the Aam Aadmi Party, contesting state elections from Shantinagar constituency. And we're going to talk about the elections in a second, but just before we get to the elections, ma'am, you have huge experience in public finance, and our state budget has recently been released. What do you think are the pros and cons of the state budget?
Well, I'm not really talking about the pros at this point. I'll come to that a little later. But the cons, yes. I have been very, very deeply disappointed in the fact that the state government simply doesn't increase its budget for education, for primary education. And I sometimes wonder, does anyone even spend 5 minutes talking to the common man on the road? I have been spending 4 years trying to get poor children into schools, and there's not a single family which has not told me that the one thing that matters to them, that carries all the dreams that they have, is the education of the child. And this is, the funny thing is, this is actually the women who keep talking about it. And many of these women are not educated, or they are very poorly educated. And they, by the way, are not making a choice between the girl child and the boy child, which is a very good piece of information for me. I found this out and I was very happy. Even now, my mobile is full of numbers of people who keep calling me and calling me and calling me. Help us with the Right to Education Act, because that's the only way they see of getting admission into some private school with so-called English medium without paying through their noses for everything. And these women are working 4 jobs, 5 jobs at a time, simply to afford the fees to buy a very indifferent quality of primary education for their children. So now I know I have to talk about my party. Look at the difference between this and look at the difference between what the Aam Aadmi Party has done in Delhi. They have a journalist, ex-journalist, who is the Deputy Chief Minister and who is the Education Minister. For him, it's a religion. And he has been voted within 3 years as the best education minister in the country. There are so many big savants in other states. Where are they all? Why is it that nobody cares for education as much as he does? That is one. Second is, yes, we have the worst possible statistics for nourishment, undernourishment. Our country is very, very low in that list. And for things like maternal mortality, for the health of women, why aren't we putting money into that? And here, of course, let me come up with a little pro. I'm very happy that both the central government and the state government are now talking about universal health care. You'd think that they discovered it. And the way they are going about universal health care is really not, according to me, the right way. They are actually putting money for an insurance company to provide insurance for the health care of people, while the Delhi government is maybe stupid, but they just put their hands in their pockets and spend all the money directly on the poor. It's as simple as that. And why is it that the Delhi government has still got a surplus budget, while Karnataka, which is sitting on a gold mine, look at the people, the number of people who are earning money in Bangalore in various ways from all parts of the country, they are here. Nothing is ever spent on, nothing that is earned, all of it, I'm very sure is not being spent on us. Where is all this leaking away? So you just have no way of discussing the budget without talking of leakages, without talking of corruption. And I think this country and this state is the land of lost potential. What we could have done for the state and for this country and what we haven't, that's the sorrow.
This country and state of lost potential. It's a powerful line coming from currently contesting candidate for the Shantinagar constituency, Aam Aadmi Party. We need to put that caveat in there. Okay, you've spoken about the voice of the common man. We've got a common man with a very important question for you up next on Fever 104 FM. State election candidate from Shantinagar constituency, Ms. Renuka Viswanathan. Retired in 2008 as the Secretary to the Government of India and the Cabinet Secretariat. She's been the first woman Deputy Commissioner in Karnataka, first woman Managing Director of the Karnataka State Financial Corporation. Just before this, using that experience and the fact that you have a PhD in public finance, you were talking about the state budget and the problems you see in the state budget. And one of the things you spoke about, ma'am, was that the budget hasn't listened to the voice of the common man. So here's a common man. His name is Ravi, and he says he doesn't believe in any party, but he wants you to tell him how can he decide which candidate to vote for in his constituency.
Mr. Ravi, I'm a student of political science and I've been always fascinated with this question. Do people vote for parties or do they vote for candidates? And I do not know. What usually happens is I think it's a mix of the two. So I think you should look at both the party and the candidate, and you must decide what mix suits you. Now, you cannot give away your precious vote for the next 5 years without actually exercising an informed choice, which means you have to look at the record of the party, the record of the candidate, and make a very clear assessment. Do you think this person is actually going to improve the conditions around you? And that's the way I would personally make a choice myself.
But I think one of the big problems with this kind of research is the effort involved in it. Is there a shortcut, an online facility where you can get this information easily before you can make your informed choice?
Oh, well, of course, when you Google, you will get a lot of information about parties and people. And unfortunately, we all know that the media is very, very badly distorted, controlled by all kinds of influences. What reaches you is not really always very trustworthy. There's fake news everywhere, so it is a bit of a challenge. However, there is enough information for you to actually find out what is happening with the government, for example, that we have in Delhi. It's just that you have to keep your mind straight. Don't get distracted. The way my leader in the state says, don't think about bakwas, think about vikas. We can talk bakwas very easily. It's so easy for us to think, I have to fight with somebody. There's language, there's caste, there's religion, and there's something which always, and there's Sri Devi, poor thing, passing away. So that distracts all of us. We don't spend time on the important thing. How is this actually affecting my life? Why is it that things around me are so bad? Why is it that nothing ever works when I go out? I have to pay a bribe for everything. Why are things so filthy? Why are the simplest, most straightforward solutions not found for our problems? And if you do just a bit of research or find out about it, or even ask us, we definitely send you the information that we have, and you make up your mind yourself. You have to make it up as an intelligent voter. You will find at the bottom of everything, political corruption is a huge, huge issue. So at least from my point of view, one of the best ways of finding out is actually to check out which party is taking a clean donation and running its campaign. And that was one of the reasons why I joined Aam Aadmi Party, is every rupee is actually taken only by check. Tell me another party which does that. None.
And that's a clear plug there for the Aam Aadmi Party. But unfortunately for you, ma'am, not everyone's convinced. Our next listener says that she thinks the Aam Aadmi Party is clean, but unfortunately doesn't know how to run the government. Let's see how you answer that question up next. You were just telling us, ma'am, about, choosing the right party and the right candidate based on how clean and non-corrupt they are. And we've got a listener, Pavitra, who's messaged in to say that she thinks the Aam Aadmi Party is clean, but unfortunately doesn't know how to actually run the government if elected, and wants you to respond to this allegation.
Thank you, Pavitra. That's an interesting question. It really raises one issue here. What exactly do you mean when you say run the government? What exactly do you want a government to do? Because obviously you are comparing the Aam Aadmi Party with some ideal which you have in your head about how governance should operate. Once that is clear, we'll be able to, I'll be able probably to tell you why we are deviating, or are we actually deviating from the norm. Now for me, governance, as I said, it's not even about democracy. Governance is simply providing a government which is collecting taxes from you, and it should be spending it for what you want. And now that we have a democracy, it's going to be what the majority of people want, which means we have elected our representatives. They sit together, they decide for the benefit of the country what should be done with the money you pay. Now, therefore, being clean is actually the heart of governance. There's no way you can separate being clean from governing. And have you actually been satisfied with the governance that you have received all these years? Of course, you've been used to that. 70 years you've seen governance. But is that the way to run the government, or is there another way of running it? One of the things that completely fascinated me about the Aam Aadmi Party was these young people, they're engineers. They are not people who are trained in political science or any such thing. And there they were thinking of some wonderful out-of-the-box solutions, which even I, as an expert in public finance, would never think of. And yet, those solutions worked. They brought the right incentives. And if I get a minute, I can explain this. You just take this first thing that they did, which was giving free water, 20,000 liters they gave free. Everybody screamed from the rooftops. And as an expert in public finance, I said, subsidy? Populist? They're all bad words. How on earth are these guys going to give this water free, and is that such a good idea? But I kept my mind a little open. I checked it out. Water, and I know the Delhi is tight on water because I'd been doing plan analysis with the Delhi government for 6 years.
You're listening to Fever 104 FM, the pop of Bollywood. My name is Tarai Sinawala, and this is my weekend special show called The Dons of Bengaluru. The Dons of Bengaluru. The Dons of Bengaluru. For the last 2 hours, we've shifted focus away from Bollywood and music and brought the focus onto issues and institutions and people that our city needs to be talking about. Our guest today is all of this rolled into one. Ms. Renuka Viswanathan is a retired IAS officer of almost 4 decades of service, retired as the Secretary to the Government of India in the Cabinet Secretariat. Before that, she was the first woman Deputy Commissioner in Karnataka, first woman Managing Director of the Karnataka State Financial Corporation. Recently, though, after retirement, she's joined the Aam Aadmi Party and is contesting state elections from Shantinagar constituency. Ma'am, I wish you all the best for your campaign. But before you leave, we have one standard question that we ask all our guests, and that is your message for the city.
Well, my message, it may not be just for the city, it will be for every individual who's listening. Basically, know your power. You have the power in your own hands. And this is something that we should remember all through our life, that we have much more power than we actually imagine we have. And my only regret at this point of my life is that I did not know how much power I had in my hands. I was always a little too scared, a little too worried, a little too conventional to exercise my power. This is the time to do that. And related to that is the thing that we all forget. That is, don't be afraid to follow your mind, to follow all the questions that you have about anything. It's for you to consciously look at all the facts around you, take a decision. Never be misled by people who keep giving you ready-made answers, ready-made solutions and ready-made prejudices. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. All the best, and thank you for all the years of service you've given us in the past.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all the listeners.